Please rise for silent invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Present.
Councilmember Batson.
Here.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Here.
Vice Mayor Tremont.
Here.
Mayor Burnett.
Here, and that's all of us.
Mayor, point of order for a moment, if you would. I'd like to make a motion to move agenda item 15 up into the section B after item 6.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and second to take item 15 off of consent and move it to, I guess, make it 6A on the regular agenda.
That'll work.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? It is so moved. With that, we have a presentation. Robin, don't think I have ever seen you dressed quite this nicely, but
Oh.
presentation of Master Municipal Clerk designation by Florida Association of
I have.
Clerks.
You don't usually take my picture, Mayor.
No, I don't. I usually don't get my picture taken with you either, but Jake, who's making this presentation?
Robin?
I'm not presenting it to myself.
No.
No, nor should you.
Should we go down there?
Heaven knows you've
Let's roll down
Yeah, I think they're going to come down while you read that.
Oh, I got a long speech. I don't know if they want to sit.
They're coming down.
Okay. Okay, well, then maybe I should go around the other side. Anyway, Mayor Burnett, members of the City Council, city staff, and those in attendance, good evening. It is my honor to be here this evening, and thank you for having me. My name is Patricia Burke, and I am the Florida Association of City Clerks Central East District Director, the co-chair of the Professional Education Committee, a member of the FACC Education Task Force, and the current town clerk of the town of Palm Shores. It is with great pleasure that I appear here this evening to congratulate your city on the recent accomplishment of your city clerk, Robin Fenwick, upon receiving her MMC designation. The International Institute of Municipal Clerks and its partner, the Florida Association of City Clerks, are professional associations that promote continuing education and certification through university and college-based institutes. IIMC's primary goal is to actively promote the continuing education and professional development of municipal clerks through extensive education programs, certification, publications, networking across the globe, annual conferences, and research. FACC's primary goal is to actively promote the continuing education and professional development of municipal clerks in the state of Florida by partnering with the Florida League of Cities and the Florida Institute of Government to meet the ever-changing educational needs of city and town clerks and to improve their knowledge in areas such as public administration, law, management, elections, and many other disciplines. Currently, only about 9.2%, or 1,370, of the 14,820 members of the International Institute of Municipal Clerks have attained their Master Municipal Clerk designation. And of the 631 members of the Florida Association of City Clerks, only 20%, or 113 members, have reached their Master Municipal Clerk designation. To achieve this, the first step is becoming a certified municipal clerk through the completion of the International Institute of Municipal Clerks approved Municipal Clerk Institute program conducted by the John Scott Daly Florida Institute of Government and Florida State University in Tallahassee. This program provides 120 student instruction contact hours of in-depth courses in managerial and leadership skills, social and interpersonal concerns, and technical training needed to deal with the changes taking place in government today. The program aids municipal clerks in improving job performance and recognizes the professionalism of the municipal clerk's office. The completion of a career development academy or a bachelor's degree in public administration or a related field, responsible experience in local government, and participation in conferences, meetings, and educational seminars are required to earn the prestigious Certified Municipal Clerk designation. However, a true professional never rests on their laurels, and they continue to strive. The Master Municipal Clerk Academy was established to further professional education of city clerks and to meet the challenges of the office. Academy members must demonstrate they have actively engaged in education and professional participation that keeps them current with the changing events in local government. Academy members seeking to earn their Master Municipal Clerk designation are required to attain an additional 168 hours in advanced education, with 80% coursework in public administration and 20% in electives, and attain 20 points in professional and social contributions to include attendance at professional meetings and conferences, and honors and awards received for specific individual achievements. This is quite a task considering the daily demands of the city clerk's office. Your clerk, Robin, is now part of an elite group of professionals in local government, a group she could not have become without your commitment to her success. Finally, on behalf of the Florida Association of City Clerks President, Board of Directors, and its members, the Florida Association of City Clerks Professional Education Committee, and the Central East District Director, Robin, we are so very proud of you. Please join me in congratulating Robin on her impressive accomplishment as one of our newest Master Municipal Clerks. Well done, Robin. Robin, display your plaque and wear your pin with pride as an example of your dedication and professionalism. Commit yourself to lifelong learning. The most valuable asset you'll ever have is your mind and what you put into it. Never stop learning because life never stops teaching.
I've got to say, Robin started with the city about the same time I did in end of 2010, and she took over from somebody who was simply excellent and did a wonderful job, but we were way behind on technology. We were not in the 21st century as far as, and not only is she taken over a monumental job of just the everyday stuff of making sure public requests are taken care of, treating people like people, and the care and concern when they come into the office and need something. These are the little things, but behind the scenes, what you've done to help transform your office and this organization, and technologically speaking, has been incredible. And you've spearheaded that. That's something I'm very proud to say that goes well above and beyond anything that we could have expected when you first started here. And tonight, I couldn't say that I'm more proud of you than anybody here except maybe Joe. Congratulations. I get your picture first. I'm usually in these. Every once in a while, it's nice to be able to take one. I'll be in the next one, but that one had to come first. Exciting game.
Switch places there, we better. Again, this gets in the newsletter on Friday.
He's an important guy with all those phones.
Thank you very much.
Tell you what.
Thank you. Robin, take care. We'll see you soon.
Council,
Hopefully
stay
I'll
down
see you
here
in
for the next one.
October. With your council?
Tighten in there. If you do, just make me look thin.
Thank you.
Photoshop is all right.
Yep.
One more round of applause for Robin. We're going to continue with special awards, reports, recognition, proclamations with item 5, Police Department Recognition Award of Merit presentation. I give you Chief Grimaldi.
Turn this way. Thank you, Mayor, City Council, for allowing the police department to present our officers to the public in such a public meeting like this. This evening we have Officer Jared Alvasados being awarded the Award of Merit. Officer Alvasados, front and center, please. On April 19th, 2019 at 03:48 hours, Officer Jared Alvasados observed a suspicious vehicle at the end of a dead-end residential street with no headlights on nor running lights. The suspect vehicle was bearing a stolen Florida tag from South Daytona. Officer Alvasados observed the vehicle quickly turn around and proceed at a high rate of speed in the direction of his vehicle. Officer Alvasados braced for impact as the vehicle turned away and passed by without causing a collision. However, Officer Alvasados engaged in pursuit of the vehicle as it continued into Daytona Beach. The suspect vehicle crashed into a tree and one of the suspects was captured. Excuse me. The vehicle was processed and contained a large amount of stolen property from vehicles in Port Orange. Multiple vehicle burglaries were linked to this suspect and to this case. Officer Alvasados used good instincts and keen investigative skill while apprehending this felon. The Port Orange Police Department takes great pride in presenting Officer Jared Alvasados with this Award of Merit. Congratulations, Jared, and thank you.
Hey, yeah, come over here for the family photo.
Bring that with you.
Christine, you've changed.
That's all I have tonight.
That's all you have. Okay. That brings us to recognition of, oh my goodness. Monica, I'm gonna botch your name. Monica Marshak Melendez and Jennifer Roberson on becoming United States citizens. These are two employees of the city of Port Orange that did the good hard work that it takes to become a United States citizen. And as we all know, citizenship in this country is an advanced degree. And it literally is if you want to become a citizen. The amount of things that you've got to learn about history, there's a very good chance the knowledge these two ladies have of American history will blow most of us away because of what they have to go through. We'd like the two of you to come up here right now. It's appropriate that the city manager who's taking the picture say a few words. So let's take the picture and then have him come up. All right. Sorry.
Jen, you're in 3, 2, 1. There we are.
All right. Jennifer?
Thank you.
Just some thoughts.
Thank you.
Marshall? Just some thoughts. Appreciate both of you and thank you for, first of all, for doing what you do for the citizens of the city every day. We appreciate that. And second of all, for being examples that we can all look up to. Thank you very much.
So, yeah, Mayor, quickly, and Monica and Jen, if you could stay up here. So we found out, maybe by accident, that Monica was at the tail end of her citizenship battle, if you will. And it's times like this where the staff kind of, the little rumor mill gets around, and next thing you know, the right person gets in their ear. They walk up to Congressman Waltz's office, and 5 minutes later, we have a date for Monica, and then somebody says, well, you know, Jennifer's going to be a citizen too. We're like, uh-oh. So we ran back upstairs and talked to Congressman Waltz's office, and we couldn't get him in the same class. But what was it, like 3 weeks later? About a week later, all right, we got both of them taken care of. But if there's one thing that'll get this staff motivated together as a team, it's when somebody wants to become a citizen. The whole staff wanted to take off and go up to Jacksonville or Orlando, and I said, you, as many as you can fit in a 15-passenger van, you can go. So they had about 45 people ready to go in that 15-passenger van, and then we got the word from Monica or somebody that, it's a very small room, and you can't just send 45 people up there. So we pared it down and sent a few people up, and we appreciate being part of that ceremony for both of you. I know we had staff members up there, and for us, you know, personally for me, it was a very exciting time. I got caught up on my U.S. history with listening to a few of Monica's flashcards, and apparently there's 3 branches of government. Who knew? But it was great, and what a tremendous opportunity for our staff to be part of your success and part of your success in becoming a citizen. So thank you very much for being part of it. Yep.
Item 15 was removed from consent and moved to now. Item 15 is Resolution 19-36, naming the boat ramp under the bridge at Causeway Park the Frank Schofield Memorial Boat Ramp. And that's what the sign should say. Resolution 1936 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, naming the boat ramp and launch facilities at Causeway Park in honor of Volusia County Senior Deputy Sheriff Frank Schofield, providing that boat ramp and launch facilities be named the Frank Schofield Boat Ramp and Launch Facilities, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Mayor, I'd like to move and make a motion to pass resolution. Do the agenda item, right?
1936.
Resolution
19-36.
19-36, naming of the boat ramp under the Port Orange Causeway, the Frank Schofield Memorial Boat Ramp.
I will second that.
We have a motion, a second. Scott, this was something that you initiated a little bit more than a month ago. At your request, we brought this forward and put it on the agenda tonight. Why don't we start comments and questions with you?
Certainly. So, first of all, I just want to say that it's an honor to bring this this motion forward to the dais on behalf of a lot of grateful residents of the City of Port Orange, as well as all over Volusia County. We tragically lost Frank Schofield. I think it's been just over 60 days now, and about the same time that I brought the idea on the dais to be considered. I'm very proud of the council and the city staff for preparing the resolution and bringing this forward for discussion and consideration tonight. I think we're going to hear some comments from folks who've known Frank in different aspects of his life and the service that he provided, not only here directly in the city, but to folks all over the county and state and in the nation, honestly. And Frank, I would just say that I've had a relationship with Frank Schofield for the better part of close to 30 years, and to lose somebody like Frank is clearly somebody you can't replace. But I can tell you that the City of Port Orange and Volusia County is better today because Frank Schofield lived and served, and the world could use a lot more Frank Schofields. And we're going to hear some of the things that Frank did, and I just want to comment. You know, we see a lot of people in different professions, and law enforcement is one of those professions where you see, you have a tendency to see a progression of people that get on these departments. They do great jobs, great service. They have great character. They have great ambition. They have an incredible work ethic, and they're really intelligent. And you see them progress and rise through the different levels. And occasionally we come across folks with all those same qualities, but their passion keeps them very well rooted into something that they really want to do and they're incredibly passionate about. And there is nobody ever that has been equal, to my knowledge, in Volusia County that has been as passionate about taking care of the public waterways in Volusia County and those that run through the city of Port Orange. And I have absolutely no question that Frank could have done anything he wanted to do in the sheriff's department. But his passion and his calling was to patrol and protect those waterways. And so in my mind at least, in the city of Port Orange, there could be no better way to honor Frank and his family and all those that knew Frank and worked with him than to name this facility and these ramps after Frank, because this was basically Frank's office. And we're going to miss him, but he's done a tremendous amount of good, and I think the more we can keep the memory of Frank Schofield involved in our waterways and in our facilities down there, that, you know, what he stood for and what he tried to do day in and day out will live a long time. And so those are my comments. I'm sure we'll hear some others here in a few.
Drew?
I gotta follow that. I mean, come on.
You don't have to.
I did not know Frank well. I'd only met him one time, and it was several years ago. But it is very apparent by the turnout in this room that this is a huge loss to everyone. It's very apparent also that he was not just an outstanding police officer, but an outstanding person as well. And it's an honor for me to be a part of naming this in his honor and just to be associated with it. So sorry for your loss, but we're going to do the right thing and get this accomplished.
Chase?
I named my daughter Kennedy after our late President Kennedy famously said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, what you can do for your country." I did not have the pleasure of knowing Frank, but you judge a man based on how he lives his life, and anybody that serves in the military, number one, is first rate for me. It's evident to me, all that I've heard about him throughout the last month or so is how he lived a life of service. He was a servant leader, serving our country, and then he can do anything else in the world that he wanted to after the military. What did he decide to do? Continue serving, and he served this community. So I'm forever grateful to be a part of this recognition and placing this honor for Frank. It's extremely well deserved.
Marilyn?
Frank worked for my husband, and I think that this award is for the right person, the right location, and for the right reason.
Absolutely.
I think anybody, and there are a lot in this room, that knows anything about law enforcement, that when you're in law enforcement and you have a family, if you're good at it, that means your family has had to give something up to let you be good at it. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind, seeing the things that have been done and the legacy he's left. It's just absolutely amazing. Susan, I appreciate you sharing him with us and with the entire community for all this time. That's a gift you've given to us that goes along with the gift he's given us in and of his service. And I think that this honor tonight is the least that we can do. Just for those watching, the sheriff also sends along his compliments and regrets that he couldn't be here, but he is also quite pleased to know that we're doing this. With that, public comment. I know there were a couple people that wanted to have a thing or two to say. Brief comments. Jim, where are you at? I know that you said you wanted to have a...
Let's not even worry about the clock either.
Yeah.
3 minutes.
I'll be brief.
You got
Very
as much
brief.
time as you want.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, on behalf of Mrs. Schofield, we all greatly appreciate what you're doing. Scott started this from the day Frank got killed. I couldn't ask for a better person to be in charge of it. I'm not going to tell you what a great person, what a great cop, what a great boat cop Frank was. We all know that. Some people may ask why the Port Orange boat ramp. Frank lived in Port Orange. He worked for you guys. The only reason he left you guys, he wanted to come to the county and be a boat cop. He did a hell of a job at it. Port Orange boat ramp was home base for Frank. We keep our boats out off Indian Lake Road. It's way easier for us to go to Halifax Harbor and launch our boats, but this was home for Frank. And he would come down here and launch every day he worked. If it was nasty weather, not a boat day, he had time to kill coming in or on his way home, he'd stop by the boat ramp, check some boats or check some fishermen, talk to people. I would challenge anybody that has used that ramp to tell me they haven't seen Frank Schofield at that ramp. I've stopped in there a few times since then. I've had commercial fishermen hug me, citizens come up and hug me. It's just an incredible loss for everybody. But I really appreciate you guys letting him live on like this.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Hello, my name is Sam Royer, and it's very sad for me to be here, but I'm very honored to be here to speak about Frank. Frank was a true friend to many of us, and the one thing I've learned early on in life is that a picture speaks 1,000 words. This is actually Frank keeping us motivated up in West Point when he did one of the Tour de Force rides. So I met Frank in 2017. I actually didn't get to ride with him because a hurricane hit, so we weren't able to go on the ride. But rode in 2018 twice, in 2019, Tour de Force ride. I think I can stand here today, speak for all the men and women of the Tour de Force Florida ride, the Tour de Force New York ride, the Garter Group in New York, and the Unity Tour men and women that ride that ride. And all those rides are in honor of fallen officers' families. Frank has ridden over 12 charity rides for fallen officers' families, which basically means he's ridden across this country over 3,000 miles just to raise money for fallen officers' family. And, you know, with his buddy Beeve by his side all the time, and Mark Willits always supporting us, Frank personified the true mentality of what a hero is to me. Personally, I'm a civilian. I'm a Marine veteran, so talking about a Navy guy like this is kind of tough. But, you know, and just a quick story. I actually, on this ride, I fell and broke my face and my wrist. And, you know, in Frank fashion, he came up to me, gave me a beer, and there was a straw in it. And he said, I think you're going to need this. But, you know, I'll just leave you with this. John Maxwell, he said it best, leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. And that's what Frank Schofield personifies. So thank you for having me today, and I appreciate you doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Come on up.
While the next speaker's comment, just on the heels of that last comment, I want to say that, you know, when you see folks out in the community and they're fundraising, they've usually got some kind of a container to put money in. It's a hat, it's a small pail, maybe, you know, if they're really ambitious, it's a 5-gallon bucket. Frank had a 30-gallon container that he would take and to different places, and with every expectation of filling that thing completely.
Nice.
To the top.
Nice.
My name's Rocky Norris. I live here in Port Orange, have for, 30-something years, since Dunlop was a 2-lane. 3 minutes didn't even scratch Frank Schofield. We won't talk about, I'm going to do better than Witter. I'll cut my own wrist. We won't talk about the Schofield that coached Little League soccer and Little League basketball in the city. That's something that's not why we're here. People are going to come up and say, why are we naming this boat ramp for Frank Schofield? He didn't die a hero's death in their estimation. And no, he didn't. He died a very tragic accidental death, but he lived a hero's life. When you talk about Frank, You have to talk about River Frank, SWAT guy Frank, Motorman Frank. When there was a call came out from Scott, we're going to do a DUI sweep this weekend. Can you guys help? We took Frank off a boat and we put him on a motorcycle because he could ride a motorcycle. When the SWAT team got called out, he never came to Port Orange. I recall, and I ran it for 10 years. Frank was always the guy behind the scope, ready to take care of business and save some people's lives on more than one occasion. Frank also had a very unique honor given to him, kind of a backhanded honor. Frank is the only guy to ever make a full-page spread in a yachting magazine, which most of you probably don't know about that. Well, and it wasn't because they loved him, and it wasn't because he was getting drugs. It's because on a sailboat, there's a valve. And sailboats, they sail, so they don't have a whole lot of motor in them, so they try to make them as light as possible. When you flip this valve, when you flush the toilet, it goes out of the boat. So you keep that valve open, then as you're coming by through Port Orange and through all the cities in Volusia County, you flush the toilet, it goes out in the Halifax River. So you can close that valve, and that doesn't happen, but then you have to pay to have that bilge pumped. So Frank found a biodegradable dye that when you threw it in the toilet and you flushed the toilet, if the whole area, and I'm talking about an area around the size of this room, turned blue from that dye, guess what? Your toilet was going in the river. And he wrote so many citations and actually docked a couple boats because of what they did or didn't have, that this yachting magazine came out and said, if you go through Volusia County, avoid this deputy. Preferably go out Matanzas Inlet and come back into Brevard County if the weather's right. So, and it worked for us too. So that's how Frank got in the yachting magazine. Avoid this guy. That's how good he was at his job. And I've been out with him more than once. He come in the office when I was his captain and go, hey, Captain, you want to go mess with some sailboats? Sure, Frank, let's go. And by the way, if the boat's made in Australia, it doesn't have that valve. It dumps straight out in the river. But anyway, that was the kind of guy Frank was. He was the guy who was willing to crawl down below decks on an air-conditioned boat in August, sweat like a dog, so he could drop that dye in there, and we could all sit back and go, yep, water's blue, you're in trouble. So that's what makes him a hero. When the dive team showed up, going in water that I wouldn't even touch with my toe, Frank was the guy 80, 90% of the time. When you had a boat out in the middle of the night and somebody calls to go for a rescue or a search and rescue or a recovery, Frank's the guy that showed up 90% of the time. He was always that guy who was ready to go, ready to do, ready to step above and beyond to accomplish the task. That is a hero.
Anyone else want to even attempt to follow that? Being said, back to us. Council, final comments, any? There being none, call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian.
Yes.
Councilmember Stillner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tremont.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0, resolution passes. Scott, if you help me out with that.
Mayor, I just want to say a special thanks to a lot of people in the room for not telling certain stories that should just remain untold.
Well, there is a bleep button on POG
Yeah,
for a reason, I guess, and well, that hopefully is not it. If anyone would like to take a moment to slide out quietly, I'll give you a few minutes before we continue with the meeting.
You're welcome to stay, though.
But if you want to stay, we got good stuff. Thank you all.
Okay.
Which hasn't happened yet.
Item 7 is going to be public comments on consent agenda items. Are there any of the remaining items that are on the consent agenda the public would like to speak to? Come on, Robert.
Mayor, council members, Robert Reinhagen, 1425 Dexter Drive, Port Orange. I would like to talk to the issue of 10B, Ponce de Leon Circle sanitary sewer improvements. The justification of the engineering effort to provide a shovel-ready project for the town of Ponce Inlet to use to secure grant funding for the project, to construct the project. My concern is that it seems like it was 10 or 12 years ago that they had Cardinal Avenue all torn up and put in sewers down the peninsula there. And suddenly now they wanted to hook up to it. And the city of Ponce Inlet is actually going to look for a grant, so they themselves are simply not going to be paying for it. They're looking to get the Florida or American citizens to pay for it for them. And so they're going to sit back and wait to get a grant. And if need is a criteria for the grant, I don't think it's going to be real quick that they'll get the money. So it might be years before they come up with a grant. Ponce Inlet is certainly not a low-income neighborhood. So I would hope that you would have some sort of assurance that if we're going to do this thing, we're going to do it right away, and that Ponce Inlet actually steps up and makes the commitment. Because I don't want to wait years. I don't think we should be spending money to wait years, because if we wait 10 years, that's going to be underwater. It's going to be in the river. So I'd like to see if we're going to do it, let's get it done right away. The other issue is item 11, the HUD CB Community Development Block Grant. In the draft action plan, it says that this was posted July 13th, 2019 in the Daytona Beach News Journal, and then posted on the citywide website for a public hearing on the 25th of July, 2019. I never did see anything on the website that indicated that this was going to take place, this meeting was going to take place. The only meeting I found on the website was the Planning Commission meeting, which I did go to, and that was not an agenda item on that meeting. So I would like you to have somebody explain where on the website this meeting was listed, because it said that there was no public participation and no public comments.
Thanks, Robert.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other public comments on consent agenda items? There being none, I need a motion to approve the agenda for the evening.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Now I need a motion for the consent agenda items. I would like one of you to motion to pull item 16, if you would.
Move to remove item 16 from consent.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, to remove item 16 from consent. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any others? Any other motions? In that case, I need a motion to approve agenda items, consent agenda items 9 through 14 and 17.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, to approve consent agenda items 9 through 14 and 17. Call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tremont.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Item 16 is the approval of the fee matrix for the 5K run for Halifax Health Hospice. Since they came out and took the time to make sure that we did our job, I wanted to make sure that, Emily, if you don't mind, why don't you tell people about your event and what you've requested from us tonight so that maybe you might have a few more people show up.
Good evening. I'm here on behalf
You got to turn around and speak to the microphone.
Okay, sorry.
You're on TV.
You're on TV and they can see you on the.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for having us tonight. We would like to invite everybody out to the 18th annual Halifax Health Hospice 5K. And we love partnering with the city of Port Orange every year as this event continues to grow. It raises money for our family caregiver program, which allows us to provide uncompensated care to our community. And this year is actually the 40th anniversary of Halifax Health Hospice. So over those 40 years, we've provided over $32 million in programs and services to our local community right here. So the race is on Saturday, September 7th. We have a ton of people who come out, walk, run. We have a kid zone that's free to participate in. Kids 12 and under also receive a free registration per paid adult. And it's a very family-friendly, fun event. So we encourage you all to come out and support us so we can continue supporting our community right here in Port Orange and Volusia County.
Do you have anything at this event? Will there be any special need-friendly activities?
Well, we do have the kid zone for for anybody to participate in, and we have the chairs and everything in the amphitheater if people just want to watch the awards. We are actually going, this is kind of a surprise, we're going to have people, a cheering section this year that anybody is welcome to come out and participate in if they can't physically do the race. One of our presenting sponsors is Heritage Waterside, which is a senior living facility over in the shores. So since a lot of their residents can't physically participate, they're bringing them out to cheer everybody on in City Center. So that would be a great way for anybody who cannot physically do the race to come out and support us.
Just a thought, and I'm getting in the habit of asking, bringing this to anyone's attention that does events, is looking into some area of play for children with special needs.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, we will look into that. Last year was the first year that we did the Kid Zone. Before they used to do a kiddie dash, but we found out it only entertains the kids for about 30 seconds. So we wanted to do the Kid Zone last year to keep them entertained for a longer period of time. And we partnered with the YMCA, and they gave us a parachute and different things. So we're definitely growing on that this year and looking for more ideas and input. So we will take that into consideration.
It is absolutely amazing how quick a 5K event actually runs from start to finish, as long as people like me don't participate in it. Any other questions or comments? May I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There better not be. Okay, I can keep the hammer down here then for a little while.
Thank you.
All I can say is appreciate the invite. I will be out there that day. I can't wait to see it, and best of luck with the event.
Thank you.
Citizen participation non-agenda, I have one. Mr. Big John, come on up.
This is like having a legend
Yeah.
come before the council.
Don't try to butter me up, Mr. Muscle.
Legend in his own mind?
You know, you don't have to have a passport to come down to see us, John.
Yeah, you do. My name is Big John. I come from South Holly Hill in the slums. So it's an honor to be in this high-class joint. But I noticed that Captain Jake is like, he's running around like a water bug or something. You do the photography and everything. You're too cheap to buy him a damn photographer? Come on. Give me a break.
My photographer's in photography school,
Oh,
so she'll be back tomorrow.
well, you're doing a heck of a day.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
I'll tell you that right now. I hope they appreciate you. So I've come today on a little bit of a distasteful subject. It's about you, Chase, and I want everyone to know that I like Chase. I think he's an honorable person. I have no reason not to think he's an honorable person. But conflicts of interest is conflicts of interest. And now that you work for Panagio and you're on the First Step Shelter Board with him, to quote the Bible, you know, it's hard to serve two masters, you know.
Now, I know you wouldn't do anything knowingly, but and by the way, I even like Panagio. So, but you know, if he votes different from Panagio, who knows what would happen? We don't know. We would hope nothing would happen, but we don't know. So it would seem to me, and it would be a good idea for Chase to resign from that board, and you guys maybe could even nominate Dr. Marilyn. I know there's not supposed to be any women on that board, but she could probably get by, sneak in, and they might not notice. So that's why I'm here. I called Donnie. Huh?
She would make them notice.
Well, yeah. And I appreciate you listening to me, and it's an honor to be in Port Orange, but I just thought you had a glaring conflict of interest. And Chase, I think you probably have an excellent career ahead of you, both with Panagio and politics. And I think this would be a smudge because people couldn't know what they couldn't know. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Big.
Mayor, I'm happy to respond.
Why don't you wait till council comments?
All right, if you're going to be around.
That's kind of what we do.
Well, council comments are next.
Big John.
No, you don't have to do that. We do council
We're
comments
doing it right
next. It's next. We don't wait. Make you wait till the end. Not here.
Oh, by the way, I see you have a mayor.
Yes, we do.
I see you, Mrs. Mayor.
I'm trying to steal my thunder here. Council comments? Why don't we start with Chase?
Do we have any more?
No.
Okay.
That was the only one I had.
Okay. Well, I didn't plan on speaking that. It's kind of caught me off guard, but that's quite all right. I've got all the respect in the world for Big John. Matter of fact, when I was growing up, and I've told Big John this. Yeah, when I thought Big John owned a car dealership or something of that nature. My dad also lived in Holly Hill on the weekends, and we would walk down Mason Avenue every weekend to Father Lopez for our little Catholic basketball league, and I'd always see Big John's billboard up there, and I just always wondered who this man was. And I finally got to meet you. I've been on your show a number of times. Actually, I'm supposed to be on next Tuesday if I'm still invited after this, to my recollection. Likewise. You know, in terms of conflicts, I can appreciate the sentiment, and you know, I serve at the pleasure of council. If council were to determine that it would be a conflict, then I'd be happy to oblige by the decision of the council. I will say, however, though, I am, you know, first of all, in defense of Mike Panagio, if anyone knows Mike, nobody works for him. People work with Mike. And I think he hired me because my ability to think independently, to be strong, make tough decisions regardless of the outcome. And I think I've demonstrated that on this board, that I'm anything but a yes man. But that being said, if I were not to be on that board, you know, I didn't beg to get on there by any means. I'd get up more opportunity to spend time with my kids. So it's I'm not begging to stay on, but however, if I were to be removed, it'd have to be for the right reasons. And but again, I always serve at the pleasure of this board. So I take your comments very into consideration for sure. Margie invited me. Yeah, she undercut you. The only other comment after that, I wanted to ask council or ask our attorney again to look in to our panhandling issue again, and I'm going to continue to you know, to try to ask to see what I want to be sure that we're turning over every stone imaginable, that we're looking for some legal ramifications and how we can resolve this. You know, it was a problem in Daytona because they had dozens and dozens. It's a nuisance in Port Orange because we've got maybe 4 or 5, but 4 or 5 is more than we've ever had. And when you haven't lived anywhere but in Port Orange, you're not used to seeing them. It is a problem for people. For example, you know, traffic. You know, it's not a problem for the people that moved from Atlanta, but if you lived here all your life, Dunlawton is a problem for folks. So I think our panhandling situation is in the same category as that. My question to you, Matt, and I don't know if you've got to research this further. We discussed this a little bit. And I know this is kind of piggybacking on a little bit what Daytona does, but is there a situation that permits us to zone panhandling in specific parts of the city without violating any First Amendment rights and not permitting it elsewhere? I'm not suggesting that's what I'd like to do, but again, I want to look at all options. The reason I ask is I wonder if we can't do it, then why were just several, I think it was a couple of years ago, when we had to zone the ability for someone to have an adult bookstore in the city limits. First Amendment issues, we cannot not permit it to be there. So we had to get creative in our zoning of it. So I wonder, is this not something that would fall into that category?
So, yeah, it's certainly going to be different comparing regulations on adult business versus regulations on panhandling or soliciting alms. One is more protected than the other, and that would be the panhandling. And for the most important reason is because it's done in a traditional public forum, the sidewalks and the rights of way of the city, versus a private business enterprise that you'd see for an adult business. That type of zoning has been attempted, the type you're referring to, by Tampa in recent years, and that was challenged in the Middle District of Florida. Its challenge was unique in that it was the first time that we've seen panhandling come up since the Reed v. Town of Gilbert case on basically content neutrality, changing the way the courts look at content neutrality. So in that Tampa case, the ordinance providing for the zoning, regulating panhandling in that manner, creating no panhandling zones, and also creating regulations about panhandling, was viewed as unconstitutional because it is content specific. It's not the act of asking somebody a question; it's the act of asking a specific question. So not just regulating somebody approaching someone in a certain area, but coupled with that protected speech of, can I have some money, or can I have some food,
But
whatever
is
it may be.
this not, and pardon me, I don't mean to cut you off, is this not what St. Augustine is doing and what the city of Daytona is doing? And if case law has struck it down, why have two cities been able to enact this?
I can't speak for them. I can tell you that we have some concerns with that approach here in the city. They're hopefully they'll have some novel arguments for why they think their approach is going to survive that constitutional scrutiny. I don't want to.
So we have to make a decision whether or not we want to roll the dice and jump in on that. Is that what you're saying?
That's certainly your decision, council's decision.
And is there, we know, I know I've looked through it time and time again, there's so many laws, panhandling laws that have been struck down. Do we know of any laws that have not been struck down, that have been upheld?
Not since Reed v. Town of Gilbert. And that's a U.S. Supreme Court case, roughly 2015. Since then, because
that would prevent
the very nature, the title of the ordinance is directed at the speech it wishes to prescribe, and that's what the courts are saying is not going to work. So even though that case, the Supreme Court case, is a signed case that really had nothing to do about panhandling, it's been applied by our Middle District. The Middle District is where we live, and what is binding on the city of Port Orange. That's the stamp that we've seen. So until that's appealed, or until we have some other guidance, that's all I can give you.
All right. Well,
Chase, can I just?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to interject on your
Please.
thought, maybe share this with you. So about a month ago, Matt and I met with a pretty local, prominent attorney who's also a resident, who had some concerns as a resident, but also has a great, obviously, knowledge and practice of looking into law and stuff like that. And we talked about a lot of different ideas and things like that. And in a nutshell, we met for quite a while and really were not able to come up with another tested, lawful approach that doesn't have considerable risk involved in doing some of the research that I was looking at. And again, this goes back just a little bit, so there may be some newer numbers, but basically since the case that Matt's talking about, 27 cities roughly have tried to defend their ordinances in court, and all 27 have lost. So not one has been upheld. The St. Augustine and the Daytona situation, all drafted by the same attorney, by the way, has yet to be tested in the federal courts. If you saw what was in a paper article not too long ago, the ACLU has, to some degree, let them know, we will get to you.
Right.
We just haven't got there yet. And so there are about 3 or 4 other cities right now in litigation, all with different variances and variables. And every time a city loses, everybody, cities try to come up, well, what if we do this? And then they take it on and assume the risk, and then they got to go and defend it. So I'm just sharing with you that,
Sure.
and I'm not suggesting by any means, I think you know this, that we just don't continue to try. I think we do, but we also have to continue to watch and learn, because other cities are spending a considerable amount of time and money and that's great. I'd love to let them work out a lot of that stuff, and then because the first one that wins, I'm all about copy and pasting. We can copy and paste pretty good in this city, I'm sure. So
Yeah.
when we find something that I think's got some good backing and some good stance where we can pursue something like that, I would be the first to jump on board, as I know we all will, to say let's look at modeling something of success. But
Yeah.
and I'm not opposed to discussing other ideas, and I know our good friend Bob used to call it being on the bleeding edge.
I was just thinking
as
that.
opposed to the leading edge, and that is exactly
very
what it
fine
is.
line.
It's
Yeah,
a
for
bleeding
sure.
edge,
Yeah.
right? And so, but we've got a great staff and a lot of folks, I think, that are trying to think every day about what can we do to help and make it better. So
Yeah.
those are just my comments.
Well, no, I appreciate you chiming in on that, and, I think that's a discussion that needs to continue on the forefront here. And I'm gonna continue to ask our legal team to turn every stone, every, pebble, that you can find out there to get some, options, because I just, I'm a competitor. I love a challenge. When something says you can't do it, then I wanna go out there and do it. So I hate telling people there's nothing I can do. And I hate that more than anything. So I'd, at the very least, I want to be able to tell them, we're not going to stop finding a solution. We're going to continue to look for something. So I want to keep that in the forefront.
From a staff perspective, and Chief, the Attorney's Office, and staff, every day we come up with a creative way to limit the ability of anybody from hanging out in those areas that you're concerned about. But that just puts them somewhere else. So, we're touching these people daily. We're meeting with them. We're talking with them. I think you're aware of the on-ramp, off-ramp successes we've had. Successes, or at least successes with the law.
That got moved down the road to Coles.
So Coles is private property. If he's at Coles, then they gave him permission to be there, or they can trespass him. That's their prerogative.
That's easy.
If they want him gone, then it is easy. If it isn't, that's easy too. They want him there, or her. If you go down Ant Catfishes, you'll see some change in the landscape down there. Doesn't mean that the person's going to go somewhere else, but we're thinking out of the box as best we can, and preserving the rights of every individual to their First Amendment rights.
I think
So-
that this is an issue that's renting space in all our minds, and I'm concerned about being civil liberties compliant, but at the same time, I'm just as frustrated as you, Chase. But let's not say that there's nothing we can do, because there have been arrests.
Absolutely.
When they do violate the laws that are on the books, there have been arrests, so it's not like we're not doing anything. But it is a very, very frustrating issue, and Chase, if you keep bringing it up for discussion, wouldn't bother me a bit.
So I'll continue to do that, and I'll close my comment just by acknowledging the great work the staff has done. Our PD, phenomenal job, and our legal team. You know, I'm going to continue to.
And I still think you can impress upon your contacts, your network, and everybody here that is not happy with the situation. Stop giving them money, and they will not remain here. When the gentleman that I'm familiar with tells me he makes between $300 and $500 a day, I'm not going to stop doing that work either.
It makes you wonder how much good $300 to $500 a day could do for somebody like Halifax Urban Ministries if the money was given directly to.
Absolutely.
That's all I got, Mayor. Thank you.
Marilyn, what have you got for us?
I just wanted to alert council, the Senate created a National First Responder Day, October 28th. So I was approached by Volusia Memorial Dignity that they're interested in doing something for the city's first responders. And I kicked the ball to the chiefs, Chief Gamaldi and Chief Festin, and they were very interested. So I don't know how to do it yet, but at some point I will be coming back to council and asking for a proclamation for that day.
Without a doubt, and that's a good group of people to do it with.
Yes, they're very supportive of everything the city is doing, and especially our first responders.
Anything else?
No.
Oh, Robin has her hand up.
If you'll just send me the information, we'll get the proclamation ready and scheduled.
Is that how I do it? I just...
That easy.
It's
Okay.
that easy.
Data dump and resolution's done, or proclamation's
And then it
done.
comes back on the agenda, correct? Okay.
Like magic.
Thank you.
And I might even sign it.
Master municipal clerk.
Okay.
Magic.
Drew,
I don't have anything tonight.
you're easy. Scott?
Just a comment reminder that the back to school starts next week.
Oh, yeah.
Teachers and staff are back now, and so if everybody could just keep in mind, a little patience goes a long way on that first week or two on the back to school stuff. Folks,
Especially with different schedules this year.
that's right. A lot of different schedules, new folks in new schools. It takes a little while, so a little patience, a little leaving early, a little having some of that with 10 public schools in our city. We seem to go through it every year, you know, and it gets a little better once everybody gets into the routine. I'm a big fan of carpooling. That helps tremendously, so if we can advocate for that, that would be great. And then my other comment is I just wanted to say how really proud I am of Robin, and she is somebody that has never stopped furthering her career and abilities and certifications and training and all that stuff in her role, and I think that you probably could at some point, and she hasn't done that, and so that is all well and good, but the real person I want to say thanks to is Robin's husband Joe and their family, because you know, there are positions in the city, and a lot of them are sitting in this room tonight, and they're in, you know, we see them all the time, and because we need them, that means they're not at home with their families, and a lot of times, and there's a lot of positions, you know, everybody, it's easy to know that the police and the fire guys aren't with their families all the time, nights, weekends, holidays, and stuff like that, but they're not the only ones. There are
You know how important the city clerk's position is when we declare an emergency and have a hurricane?
I've always said, look, there's two
She's the
people
one.
that definitely work hard to keep us out of trouble, and that's Robin and Cindy, right? And so, and I am
sure.
very appreciative for both of you. But
Me
I
too.
just wanted to say, I didn't even actually realize Robin's husband was still here. But Joe, thanks for the sacrifices that you and your family make so that Robin can be here to keep us on track and out of trouble, and all the extra time and the hours and the last minute request. You know, there are certain people that are masters, and I know we shouldn't do it. We hate to do it. We don't want to do it. It just happens that way sometimes, and at least to us, she never complains about that. She might complain about it to Jake. I don't know, but
You could probably ask Joe about the complaints.
you're excellent. You do an excellent job at helping us in those little ways which go unnoticed. I know we don't thank you enough for that kind of stuff. but I don't want you to think it is unnoticed, because we do notice, and so we're appreciative and very proud of you. That's
You
an
don't want
awesome
your head getting
accomplishment.
too big with all this.
So, that's all I got, Mayor.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Robin.
I just wanted to do one thing tonight, and that's point out that we do a pretty good job of trying to protect our neighborhoods and protect our neighbors. And our neighbors are not just the neighborhoods and our HOAs, but the cities that adjoin us, that work with us every day. We answer calls in their cities, and they answer calls in ours, and we have a lot of joint participation agreements on projects, and so there are things that go beyond public safety. But one of our great neighbors is Daytona Beach Shores, and I just want to say welcome to Mayor Nancy Miller. Thanks for coming tonight. Stand up for a second.
Nancy.
Okay.
I just came to, I know what a great mayor you have, so I just wanted to come and observe. Thanks for having me.
How about that?
Funny, I think they've got a pretty special mayor too, so thanks for coming.
Welcome.
Board appointments, interviews, and reports. Item 19, report for Kemper Sports on the Cypress Head Golf Course.
There we go.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. City Manager. Bob Duquette, General Manager, Cypress Head Golf Course. This report's actually for the end of June of 2019. And just going to go over a couple information pieces. Our revenues for June basically finished slightly lower than projected budget, and most of that has to deal with what we've had: triple-digit heat and heavy amounts of afternoon showers. I am well over all the afternoon showers. I think we've had enough for how long we can have it for. Our payroll for the month was definitely lower, mostly as a result of controlling our labor costs. And in the course of June, this is our 9th month in our fiscal year for 2018-2019. Revenues are slightly lower. Range is lower, as well as the pro shop revenues, and they were equal to the amount that we budgeted. And our payroll and operating expenses are both lower than our budget amounts for the year so far. Again, if we get rid of this rain, we can really do much better. In T-sheets, we've had 3,131 rounds for the month. Those break down for essentially 2,316 18-hole rounds and 737 9-hole rounds. Month of June is once again our pleasure to work with the Port Orange Parks and Recreation. We held the annual Mayor's Invitational Golf Tournament. It was a full field event, and the proceeds went back to the Parks and Rec Scholarship Fund. It was a pleasure working with your staff at the city. Susan, David, Peter, they were terrific in helping the event go so well.
It was a good day too. Just don't ask me about any of my scores.
You weren't the champion, I don't believe.
You know what? But we didn't finish last either.
I do believe there was a champion here. I don't see the trophy, but I do believe that.
No, the champion's sitting back there, but Jake was on the team also.
Okay.
Surround yourself with great people.
There you go. I heard he did make a couple of great putts, though, so that's
Not so long ago.
The merchandise in our golf shop is arriving daily. We update everything. We had $780 in gift card sales and $6,500 in pro shop sales. Our staff right now has been offering a tremendous amount of lesson packages, both beginners and advanced players. And Kemper Sports does an initiative for player development, and we've been participating with that. Junior summer camp programs, golf get ready programs, and complimentary golf during the summer for all of our juniors, as well as free range tokens so they can come and practice and play, and it doesn't cost mom and dad anything. We just recently finished our 3 sessions of camp, and I'm proud to say that we had 26 kids in our last camp, so I can understand what teachers are like. I can appreciate how much they do. 26 kids playing golf is a tremendous process, and our junior camp program has really grown. Reggie Hunter, who's our Director of Sales and Marketing, has been booking tournaments, and she is very involved with the Port Orange South Daytona Chamber, both the Daytona Beach Chamber and also the Rotaries as well. And of course, we do everything on social medias with Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And let's see here. We send out information or questionnaires on a monthly basis, and the overall ratings for our golf course received a 9.0, a recommended rating of 9.0, and our service rating is at 9.7. We really pride ourselves on our customer service. And if you've not been out to the golf course has improved tremendously from some of the things that we had going on. The agronomy aspect has been much improved. We put out a search for a new superintendent, and we are proud to say that Ken Cascadden has joined us on the team. He started about 2 weeks ago. He comes from Midland, Texas, and he's been 23 years as a golf course superintendent. So we're looking forward to all of his knowledge and everything that he's had to do, or what he plans to do for the golf course itself.
Just as long as he knows year 24 is the most important one.
Year 24 is important.
Okay.
He comes highly recommended. Like I say, at this point, we're excited to have him on board. He was at the golf board meeting earlier this evening and stuff, so he got a chance to meet everybody. And anybody who would like to come over and meet, he's been there 7 days. Come on out and visit. We'll give you a tour for the golf course. And again, as I mentioned, we had a really great summer camp program. We plan on continuing that through the course, but the kids do get to play for free, and they get free tokens.
There's some
Free
smaller
range.
kids out there too.
There's some really good players. We've got
I saw some smaller kids out there last Thursday. I was pretty impressed.
We've had a lot of 6 to 10 has been a huge jump. Mom and dad are interested in getting them out there, and it's been great for them to come out and play. So it's been good. That's all I have.
Questions, comments? Scott, anything?
What do you guys do for the youth clubs? They got to bring all their own clubs or stuff, or?
No, we've got a full selection of clubs from all sizes, all ages. So whatever they have, if they don't have them, we can supply anything that they have. They always come out. If they like going to the range, they can always use our clubs. They're all complimentary.
All right. Folks that have clubs at the house that are in great shape that want to donate them, can they donate those?
Absolutely.
To you guys?
We take
Okay.
donations. All they can do is bring them by.
Excellent.
The only thing I would tell you, the clubs that are back in 1950, we
Sure,
really
sure.
don't need those.
Right,
But
right.
if you've got some decent clubs,
Yeah.
we'll take them and we use them. Both with Spruce Creek High and Atlantic, we offer them. But if there are junior versions, we love any junior sets.
Excellent. Okay.
Drew?
I'm good. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
The 1950 clubs serve as nice relics in the clubhouse, though.
That's right.
I'm sorry I missed the Mayor's Cup. I was out of town. It's the one time of the year I get to, one time of the year I get to get out there and play and not feel bad about leaving the family in the early morning.
Somebody turn the city manager's mic off, please.
I have heard that of significant improvements. Very, very happy to hear that.
Yeah.
And I'll get out there and take a ride through there pretty soon. But
Absolutely.
Good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marilyn?
Yeah, I had a number of questions. I appreciate all the information, but I will tell you there were a number of points I couldn't make head nor tails of it. For
Okay.
example, you provide an operational summary report, financial summary for the month ending May, and then again for June. And so May is on page 477 of the agenda packet. And 12 lines down on the net operating income year to date, you said your budget was $47,721. That didn't seem to make much sense. So then I went to June thinking, okay, maybe it's a typo. June's financial summary for the golf month ending, and for that same item, net operating income year to date, under the budget, it was $18,064. I couldn't, I tried to subtract one column from another, saying you mislabeled it. It just didn't make any sense. So could you talk to us and educate us about what that line means?
Okay. So in this case here for the operating expenses, I've
No,
got
not expenses, income. Net
operating income.
income.
I apologize. So essentially what you're looking at is where we have our total revenue. If you're looking down the line, the gross margin would be what we have revenue minus what we had for cost of sales. We're going to subtract our total payroll costs in the case of the budget number there. And then we're going to take away our operating expenses, and that should be what that for the month of June, for that, or I'm looking for the entire year to date, would say that we would be in positive 18,000.
Well, okay, I understand actual.
Okay.
But this is the column next to it as to what you've budgeted. Did Kemper expect to only make 18,000 year to date through June 2019?
Correct. That was the budget that was presented to the city. Correct.
Okay, and in May you expected to make 47,000 year to date? If May is 47,000, but by June year to date you're down to 18,000, essentially what you're saying is you're going to lose money the month of June.
Unfortunately,
Big time.
we do lose money in the month of June for a combination of a couple of things. Usually we do agronomy aspects in terms of aeration. Our number of rounds are down tremendously. The cost of the rounds are down as well because of the fact that there's not a lot of people playing, the heat, combination of everything all together. So we will make the majority of our income in the course of the winter months when a lot of our northern people are here. So the January, February, March, April is going to be our biggest revenue generating months to hopefully make us be able to sustain through the course of the summer itself. Summers are very tough to make any money.
Okay, I appreciate the explanation, and it would be helpful if your future reports talk about that in clear terms. Related to that, marketing and sales.
Yep.
You have the person helping the restaurant. You have your marketing person says they're helping the restaurant, and then you also talked about how they're working with the chamber and the Rotaries.
Correct.
I didn't see any data on return of investment. I'm a metrics person, and so I think it's very easy to say things are better, they're working, they're helping. I'd like to measure that to know, is it truly helping? What has been the return in terms of dollar sales, directly attributable to something that marketing has done, number of customers by date, if you can break it down by residents versus residents meaning of Cypress Head.
Right.
Residents of Port Orange, outsiders, that would be much more meaningful in really helping us understand what is the value that Kemper is deriving and putting some real numbers. Related to that, your survey. In May, you said you mailed 400. You got 8.4 with a recommended rating of 8.4. What does that mean?
Okay, so the breakdown for, can I go back to the other one for marketing? Or I can break down some of the bigger numbers for you altogether as far as how you would like those. In terms of marketing, Reggie Hunter, who is our marketing director, has been working with Flagsticks to help him as much as possible.
Okay.
And that's mostly a combination of emails and just things that to let everybody know what's going on.
Okay, how many emails have been sent? What's the return on investment
all
of
right.
doing that? It's not simply enough to tell us she's been helping. I don't doubt that she's doing the work.
And
But what are you producing as a result of that effort? I think that's the question that
Okay.
I'm asking, and I think our citizens would like to know, and I think council would like to know.
Okay, and just also the fact that she's involved with the Rotaries and the chambers, and those are the ones that will bring in events to the area itself. So we can probably document in the sense of the groups that are going to be coming. Again, the chamber had an event there, the Rotaries have had an event there, people that she's made from that point, so we can combine those numbers and try to get you some of those matrix.
Okay, but I think the question also should be, if you have those memberships and you have secured tournaments, how is that paying off in future in terms of new business? I mean, those are all, that's where I'm suggesting.
Okay.
I've talked with the city manager about metrics, and we need to get away from just counting a few things and saying, oh, we've done X number of this, X number of that. The real question is, if we want to look at return on investment, where are we improving? If things are declining, what does that tell us? And what do we need to do in terms of changing where we're going?
Okay, I can certainly look into that.
Okay, so in terms of the survey,
Yep.
what does it mean when it says 8.4
You're-
was the rating, and
So
there
there
was also the recommended rating? They're the same number.
I'm I'm looking at the June one, so I don't have
Right,
the May one
June
in
was
front.
9, and the rating was 9, and the
Correct.
recommended rating was 9. How convenient that the rating and the recommended rating seem to always match. What does it mean?
Those are numbers that go into, we send out a survey after people have played to see as to what they think, whether or not the course was good, did they have a good time,
Mhm.
cost, quality, that aspect itself. So the course rating is fairly square. The overall rating is probably a combination of those aspects. The service rating, of course, is the customer service. And in terms of the recommended rating, I'm assuming 9 out of those 10 people have said that they would recommend us.
Okay, can we not assume, and could you get some more
Absolutely.
information to tell us what we're really looking at? And I'm curious, what is the response rate of the 400? 400 is a lot to send out monthly.
Mhm.
Are they different players? Are they the same players? Are they people that live there? Are they Port Orange residents? We need data that is meaningful, that doesn't just count. You talked a little bit about carts. I mean, here's how some of this all plays out. Cart usage, you've had a decline in the month of June in rounds, okay. So presumably your cart usage has gone down.
Mhm.
Do you track cart usage? Because at the end of the day, that relates to the life of the cart, and that may play into the budget as to how frequently we need to replace something. For example, with our car, if we assume we drive 12 to 15,000 miles a month, but then our usage changes annually to 10,000 miles a month, well, it's going to take us 3 years to put the same mileage on the car that we normally would have done in 2. The same thing about carts. So that's why knowing that players are down, asking the question about carts feeds into the replacement cycle and ultimately budget. So that's enough of my point, but I just I would appreciate some more data. And it sounds like you have some, you just haven't necessarily thought through how it can help us as policymakers and the residents understand
Sure.
when things are good and how we need to tweak things.
Absolutely. We can work on all that.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Another point? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
She took part of mine, so I'm going to let you off the hook.
We'll work on all those.
All right. Golf Advisory Board report?
Good evening, folks. How's everybody today? Good deal. All right. I'm going to combine actually 2 meetings that we had of the Golf Advisory Board into
After you
kind of.
state your name for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Rich Lee, 6393 Long Lake Drive, Port Orange, Florida. I am the chairman of the Golf Advisory Board this year, and last year, and probably next year. The fact is, Bob talked about a couple of things, and I just want to comment on the mayor's tournament. The mayor's tournament, a lot of you participated in. I see some familiar faces and a winner's face. But the winning team. I'm sorry. I did hear good putts, though. I did hear good putts. So
Man, Bobby.
2 people are communicating the
Bobby
same thing.
Ball is sitting in the back row.
I know. Yeah. Well, John
I'm
told me.
running out of money though, so
That's okay.
compliments will probably end this week.
It was one of the best run tournaments that I've participated in, and I do participate in quite a few. The cooperation between the city and Parks and Recreation, Kemper, I think was just phenomenal. It was just really, really run well. So I just wanted to make that comment. Bob talked a little bit about this Ken Cascadian, I think I'm saying his name correctly, the new court superintendent. He was at the Golf Advisory Board meeting tonight. We did query him about his thoughts about the course. If you're coming into this, first of all, what do you see as your number one issue? And he immediately said weeds. I've been here, I think he said 13 days. He said weeds are the number one thing that I see that we have a problem with. We had a lot of discussion around, well, evaluate the course on a scale of 1 to 10. Where is it right now? 5.5. In 60 days, where do you expect it to be? 7. So what are you going to do that? Well, I have to put the plan together, but I'm looking at the personnel that I got to work with, the budget I've got to work with, the equipment I've got to work with, And combine that with my knowledge of what needs to get done to do these things, I think I can get it there. He's very confident that he can do it. So we said, okay, 60 days, that's when we meet again. We'll see what the evaluation turns out to be. But he was very positive. Seems like a great guy. He's got a lot of experience. So he's been around before. He's worked in communities where he's had very few people, very little budget. So I think he can work with, he's got this balancing of what do I have, what can I work with, what can I do, and how quickly can I get up there. His ultimate goal is to get the course to a 9. Now, everybody's position on a 9 might be a little different, but by the same token, I'm glad to see that he is aggressively looking at, I can improve this course, and you'll see results in 60 days. So I thought that was very good. We talked a little bit about some issues around alcohol being brought into the course from outside. It's verboten to do that. There have been some problems with people bringing coolers about the size of this table, dragging them in through the parking lot, and then telling them, no, you can't bring that in. And they'll say, okay, so they put it back in their car, they get their golf cart, and then they go back out into the parking lot to get the same cooler. So they got people chasing them now into the parking lot to make sure they're not bringing any alcohol in from outside. There was one that was comical, and I think Bob shared this with us a while ago. Guy brought in, had a red cooler. He dropped it off on the other side of the street beyond 1 and came in. They said, okay, you can't have a cooler, you can't bring anything in. And everybody had seen him drop it off. So they went out and got the cooler, brought it in. So he went across the street when he got finished with one and said, where's my cooler? My beer's gone. Lo and behold, he didn't get it. We talked again about the roller coaster condition of the course, with particularly the weeds, the bunkers, and the tee boxes being in poor condition. They continue. There's some pictures that were actually taken of different holes on the course where there needs to be improvement. They will go to this new landscape course superintendent, and he's promised to take care of those. The other thing we worked on was the golf course rules, which are being rewritten. They were written back when the course was originally put in play. We've been working on those for about 4 or 5 months. Matt has gone through and made some adjustments to make sure the legalese works correctly. We voted on those tonight. They're fine. They should be coming to council probably at the next meeting in October, so you can look forward to those. And the one last comment I would make is I was reading the Wall Street Journal, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 days ago, and there was an article in there about golf. And for the first time in several years, the number of rounds played in the U.S. has actually gone up year over year. So hopefully, I don't know if we're seeing it here in Florida, but we're hopeful that we'll get that ticking again and we'll get things moved up. Questions, comments?
Scott? He's got it figured out. He said it's the Tiger Woods effect. He wins one major, and now people want to go up playing golf.
There you go.
Whatever it is.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, whatever
Yeah,
that is, that's a good word, and I hope you're right. I mean, I do think that, because I read some documents a while back, and I think even the PGA said they kind of missed a generation for marketing that whole group, and
Yeah.
they're trying to fight back and get back, which will benefit all the golf courses across America, and hopefully
Right.
ours is included
Right.
in that, because the more folks, and I think Bob's notation tonight about the youth getting out there and getting involved, that's what we got to have. We've talked about it many times over. It's not about the folks that are playing today to sustain that course for the long haul. It's the folks we got to get to want to go play that game.
You got to start getting the kids early, and the earlier the better.
That's a good word. I appreciate you bringing that up. I had not seen that, so that's great, because that's really ultimately I think what we want to see.
Comments, Chase?
No comments, great job. Thank you.
Drew?
Thanks.
Thanks, Rich. I don't have anything, but thank you for your involvement and
Sure.
being the
thanks
chair
for
of that
serving.
board.
Okay, good deal. Thanks.
Appreciate you, Rich.
Yep.
Thanks, Rich.
Thanks, Rich.
Parks and Recreation Advisory Board report. Or not?
I can report that they had a special meeting tonight and they unanimously voted to allow the Frank Schofield sign. I got that.
Sounds like a winner. That brings us to the public hearing portion of our meeting. We've been sitting here about 90 minutes, so let's take a brief 8-minute recess.
Did they
And we're back. Opening the public hearing portion of our meeting. Second reading of ordinance 2019-20. Oh, and you would.
You, not pen. You never know.
And of course, during the break.
Computer went
Yeah. Here we go. Oh, I was on the wrong one. Second reading of ordinance number 2019-20 is small scale future land use amendment, 904, 908 Taylor Road. Ordinance number 2019-20, an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida relating to comprehensive planning, amending future land use map of the comprehensive plan, amending the future land use designation plus or minus 4.4 acres from office residential transition to commercial, providing for conflicting ordinances, severability, and an effective date.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2019-20.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the second reading of this ordinance. Council comments or questions?
Second
comments.
reading.
There being none, I'm seeing no shaking. Would anyone here care to speak to this item? There being none, final comments? I'm going to assume that they were the same as the initial comments. With which I will say call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tremont.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Brings us to second reading of ordinance number 2019-21, the rezoning of 904 and 908 Taylor Road. Ordinance number 2019-21 is an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, rezoning plus or minus 4.4 acres located at 904 and 908 Taylor Road from professional office PO to community commercial CC, authorizing revision in official zoning atlas and providing for an effective date.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2019-21.
A second.
We have a motion second. Council comments on this item?
No.
Nope.
There being none, and these two were related, so I kind of didn't expect any. Would anyone here care to speak to this item? Nobody wanting to get on the clock. We appreciate that. As nods yes the attorney. Council final comments, there being none? Call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tremont.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. That passes. That concludes the public hearing portion of our meeting. Brings us to regular agenda. First reading of ordinance number 2019-8, dissolving the Code Enforcement Board in favor of special magistrate enforcement hearing. Ordinance number 2019-8 is an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, dissolving the Code Enforcement Board in favor of the special magistrate method of enforcement, amending various sections of the Code of Ordinances and the Land Development Code to delete references to the Code Enforcement Board or special master and replace said references with special magistrate, providing for appointment of a special magistrate and describing the powers and duties of the special magistrate, removing reference to the Code Enforcement Board attorney, authorizing the city manager to make determinations on whether to foreclose on code enforcement liens, preserving the validity and enforceability of all administrative actions, orders, and liens of the Code Enforcement Board prior to the adoption of this ordinance, providing for codification, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2019-8.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Jake, who's speaking to this?
I'll speak briefly about it and then pass it off to Matt, since he's pretty much the one that crafted the ordinance. But as you're well aware, we have a special magistrate that takes care of all code enforcement. We haven't used the enforcement board since I've been here, and the special magistrate is a great non-biased person that takes care of all these things. Mayor, you've been to at least one of them, I know, and seen this gentleman in business, and this particular magistrate that we have does a great job. However, we've had others in the past that have either filled in, or we had one previous to this one, and just I think we switched due to contract ending. But this just kind of falls into my category is do what we say and say what we do. We're just cleaning it up to say what we do. I'll defer to Matt for any legal portion of it. Matt?
Deputy City Attorney Matt Jones.
I think that pretty much said it. We don't have any real substantive changes except for the portion that gives the city manager the authority to foreclose on code enforcement liens that have been out there for a number of years. In a lot of cases, that's not really even an option because a homestead property,
exemption,
you can't foreclose on those. It was previously delegated to the Code Enforcement Board. We just didn't think it was proper to be with the special magistrate. We thought it'd be better probably with the city manager. So that's the only real substantive change. Other than that, we're just clearing all confusion that any code enforcement brought by the city would be in front of the special magistrate as opposed to a board. So that's all.
Perfect. Why don't we start on this side this time, Marilyn?
No comment.
Chase?
No comment.
Drew?
I don't have anything.
Scott?
No, I think it's a good move.
Robin, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the 9+ years or so that we've been at it, I think maybe it's met once or twice ever.
It met the first few years when we started, but we supplemented it with the special magistrate as well at that time, so it's been mostly the special magistrate.
And I think we're just basically codifying a process that we're already employing.
Yeah.
And, that's certainly a whole lot more expeditious.
Right.
Anyone here care to speak to this item? There being none, back to us for final comments. Any? There being none, call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tremont.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. First reading of ordinance number 2019-25, amending section 2-262, purchase and sales procedures and ratifying purchases consistent with policy actions. Ordinance number 2019-25 is an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Article 6, Division 2, Section 2-262 of the Code of Ordinances regarding purchases and sales procedures, increasing purchasing threshold for a single quote to and including $3,500, ratifying purchases effective May 1st, 2019, providing for codification, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2019-25.
I'll second.
We have a motion second. The item is on the floor. Who's going to speak to this item?
Mayor, Scott Niels is going to, before he starts, this is one of many changes you're going to start to see, and we kind of set the expectation about probably 15 months ago that you're going to start to see as ERP comes online, ordinances that will snap us into the ERP process due to process improvements. This is one of them. It also has 3 or 4 other benefits, so Scott will brief you on that.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Scott Niels, Chief Financial Officer. As the city manager had indicated, this is an update to the current code of ordinances for our purchasing, particularly with our P cards. As city manager mentioned, our primary reason for doing this is to be more consistent with our workday business processes, to try to speed things up, to give more flexibility to the department heads to purchase small items. That also puts it in line with the FEMA micro purchase limits. So we're requesting an increase from the $1,999 as it currently goes to $3,500 for P-card transaction purchases. And those P-cards are approved by the department director, and they are used to expedite for small purchases up to that $3,500 per transaction. And it also, for example, 17% of the purchase orders between $2,000 and $3,500, or it was 17% in this last year, so it's quite a volume. And by using P-card transactions for this, we're able to speed up the process, not have to go through the whole purchase order routine. So we are recommending that this particular change be made. The only real change in the ordinance as it reads for the P-cards is it moves from the $1,999 up to $3,500 for purchases on the open market if the quoted price appears fair and reasonable. Items with purchase price of more than $3,500 but less than or equal to $5,000 shall be made using 2 verbal quotations. Items with a purchase price of more than $5,000 but less than or equal to $25,000 shall be made with 3 quotations confirmed in writing. And those are submitted to our purchasing department so they can review them, and if everything is competitive and they appear that they got reasonable quotes, then they will issue the purchase order based on those 3 quotations. So my recommendation and the staff's recommendation is that the council approve this particular ordinance, at least in the first reading.
Hey, Scott,
I'd
one
happy to
of
have
the
questions.
added benefits that I didn't think about till you started talking about it is with the availability of using a P card, that will increase our P card usage, which will increase our money back slightly as
Yes,
well.
sir.
That's I think we briefed you on that a couple.
0.135% rebate from SunTrust.
We get a rebate now from SunTrust for using a P card, so we try to use a P card whenever we can. And my initial concern was people would use the P card and we wouldn't be able to track exactly what was bought. Well, come to find out that using the P card, you can track what was bought better than in some other cases. So it's very, I don't want to say micromanaged, but very detailed. And we are able to track what was bought, when it was bought, how it was bought, what was bought with it. And I'm now extremely comfortable with P card purchases, where before I was a little scared about using them.
One of the benefits Workday will bring to us right now, it goes through a normal credit card process. As you may know, for your own, it takes you maybe 30 to 45 days to find out that statement and get the transaction. Workday will integrate directly with SunTrust, so those will be posted the next day. So the department directors or those that are authorizing the P cards will be able to go on to into Workday and see immediately what transactions have hit their account. So we're very pleased with that, because that will
Real-time
improve
management.
real time, and it also will have those funds encumbered much more quickly, so the department directors can better manage their budgets.
Let's start with Chase.
Not too much comment. I'm all right with this. I appreciate the ability to be more efficient in our work. I'm always, you've got the parameters in there that prevent suspenders from going crazy
sir.
with it, because I've seen that happen in multiple institutions. So as long as we keep counting our pennies and nickels when we're
Dollars will take care of themselves.
yeah, when we're purchasing. So I'm okay with this.
Marilyn?
I had a couple questions.
Okay.
It seems to me that you're asking really 2 things. One is the method of payment, the P card and the thresholds, and the other, when you talk about getting no verbal confirmation or 2 bids or bids in writing, is really about ensuring that there's some accuracy or accountability in the prices that you get, so that we use tax dollars wisely. And so
Right.
those are 2 different things. I'm
Competitive
totally
bidding.
in favor of the method of payment. My question about the changing the threshold from 2,500 to the 3,500 for bids is, what are other jurisdictions doing? I want to make sure that we have accountability. And have you done any look at what the past has been for items that are $2,500, and then those that went to the $3,500 threshold, and where you needed 2 bids? Are they close? Are they discrepant? Because the reason that you had that initially was to make sure that you were getting a good price.
Right.
And what competition was. So I'd be interested in knowing, have you looked at any of that?
I personally haven't, but our purchasing manager, Jim Tillman, has.
Okay.
And it was his recommendation, based on his 40 years of experience, that this would be much more efficient. And so what happens is the departments provide those quotes. They will go out and
Right.
research their items. They will come back to purchasing with those. Purchasing looks at them to see, are they reasonable quotes based on their knowledge and their expertise? And if they are, then they can go ahead and issue the purchase order. But the primary thing they're looking for, was it fairly and competitively bid?
Well, I
through the quotation
understand that,
process.
but I don't think that gets to the question.
Okay.
Having it be efficient may be more about convenience and not necessarily accountability. Those may not be the same things, and so the question I'm asking, it may be more efficient for staff to not have to do the double bids, to have a higher threshold, but at the end of the day, what are the taxpayers getting? And can we be sure if we raise the threshold before you need to get 2 bids, that we're going to get a fair price, and the taxpayers and all of our dollars are being used effectively? Saying that it's more efficient for staff doesn't answer the question about accountability. And that's the question I'm asking.
Let me address it from the standpoint that each one of us as a department head is
Mhm.
accountable for the budget that we have been given by the city manager and through the city manager by the council. So it's up to us to make sure that we are using those dollars wisely.
Okay.
I know, for example, Lynn Stevens has hundreds of these things going through, and she personally reviews every P-card report at the end of the month or in certain cycles. And to make sure that everything, for example, if you buy tires, was that particular purchase on that P-card, how do you know that it was put on a right car for that tire? Well, every one of those P-card transactions has the city vehicle number that was done, and it's approved by Jeff Fontaine down in the purchasing side, where he buys the tires, he puts them on this car. So those are the kinds of things through that transaction that we know that, number one, the goods were delivered and for a proper city purpose. The second thing is that because it's been through those quotes, if it's over 3,500 to 5,000, that there are at least 2 competitive bids that were given, and they can pick the most one, just like council does, whether or not that's a fair bid and whether it's the reasonable bid based on the ability to provide the service. So you could make the argument that yes, well, we need those 2 extra bids at a lower dollar volume, but we're entrusting the department heads with millions of dollars to perform the city's functions. And in my experience, we found that they are very prudent in spending the taxpayers' dollars, because they treat them as their own. In my experience, and I've been here since February, but I've looked at those reports and I've looked at the P-card transactions, and I have every confidence that they do their job correctly.
Okay, I'll accept that. That goes to my second point. I'm not questioning that the department heads don't verify the P-cards. It really is about that issue of the bids, and I think your comment that they husband those dollars and they want to make sure they get the best deal, that goes to the heart of what I'm asking.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm satisfied.
And another point, Councilmember Ford, is that from 25 to 3,500, it's been 2,500 for a while. So I'm not saying things grew in price by $1,000, but things are getting more expensive. So the same thing is over $2,500 now, and the other thing is our purchasing manager, Mr. Tillman, is always hawking the purchasing and how we do it and how we can do it better. You see emails coming out from him. Sometimes I see him in the CC line on you bought that for even under $1,000. You bought that for $1,000, but I'm seeing it here for 800. Okay. And so he's got everything but the green eye shade going, but he hands us little pointers every time to save money, and so I'm pretty confident, as you had said, that the staff is being as great a steward as they can, especially in that low 3,500 and below, because that's where they can save $1 here, $1 there, and get something that they need.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Drew?
Not really many comments. I mean, working with ERP and coming in and, perhaps some efficiency, improvements and things. This doesn't seem like it's going to cause us any problems, and it might just help us a little bit, so.
Yes, sir.
Well done.
Scott?
Wasn't all that long ago we were looking for ways to speed up the process of getting day-to-day things that pop up unexpectedly taken care of quickly as possible for the residents of of Port Orange, and I would agree that I think that is the one area that technology has helped us is how good the P cards are at not only being tracked but also keeping a record of exactly what's purchased, when it's purchased, who was purchased by, all those different kinds of things. And so it's good to see us kind of trend back the other way, and with good reason. For a while, council was incredibly tight. We needed to be. We had a few incidences way before this administration's time, but nonetheless, those things are way in the back of your minds. But I do think that staff has done a really good job over the last few years of being able to make good decisions and safeguard the taxpayer dollars and things like that. But at the end of the day, I'm good with this. I think some of those values are going to have to increase over time. I think it's reasonable and it's realistic, and it's the right thing to do, because we do want to get a lot of those little things. It's funny. Sometimes it's the littlest things on a day-to-day operational thing that can create some of the biggest headaches and issues. And when we can act quickly and get them knocked out, they're almost nobody even knew they happened, right? And that's kind of what we want. We want the efficiency, we want the accountability, but all those little day-to-day nuisances and
How many
operational
times do
breakdowns,
you
we
have
want to
to
get it done.
demobilize and then remobilize while we wait on something?
Yeah.
Where
And government is, one
The
of
cost
my
of that.
stresses, I've said it 1,000 times, is painstakingly slow at getting some of the easiest things done. And so a lot of this helps to do that. So that's what we want to be doing. So I'm good with it.
I like the idea of being able to get the information in real time. You have projects that are ongoing, you want to be able to monitor more closely. As a manager, you can do that. You have certain teams that are going on. You might find that you get the data more often. You spend less time reviewing it because it's fresher in your mind, but even though you're reviewing it more often, and you might be better at it. So I think it's a great tool for them. Certainly when it comes to the things that have to do with bidding and spending, we hold Jake accountable, and Jake holds you guys accountable. And all I can say is that if we execute this, then you guys go execute it to the best of your ability, and that's what we're asking you to do.
Yes, sir.
Anyone here care to speak to this item? There being none, back to us. Final comments, council? There being none, call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Trainer.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. I noticed you haven't gone anywhere, because
No,
that
sir.
brings us to resolution number 19-37, approval of the fiscal year 20 through the fiscal year 25 capital improvement plan. The resolution number 19-37 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, adopting a 6-year capital improvement program for the City of Port Orange for fiscal years 2020 through fiscal year 2025, and providing for an effective date.
Motion to approve resolution number 19-37.
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. The item is on the floor for discussion. Welcome back.
Mayor and council, thank you. Scott Niels, the Chief Financial Officer. What we have before you tonight is your capital improvement program for approval and concept. You've been provided a copy of the CIP book earlier for your review. Tonight, it's my pleasure to actually have Kevin Fall, our budget analyst and CIP coordinator, make the presentation for you. I've been very impressed with his ability and his understanding of all of our CIP. And Kevin, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Scott. Kevin Fall, CIP coordinator and budget analyst for the city. It's my pleasure to be here. This is my first presentation in front of the city council, but not the first presentation I've had in front of local government. I've spent many, many years with Seminole County doing this in the past. What we have again for you today is, oh, I need my clicker.
I got a clicker.
Can we get this sent to us?
What we have here for you today is the culmination of something that began even before I got here back in April. And it comes about every year where we go update it's basically a 6-year strategic plan of our capital improvements that we as a city council adopt for various reasons. And there's a quick PowerPoint presentation. It's only 30 slides, and it shouldn't take that long. And as always, any questions, you can interrupt me whenever you need to do that. I'll try not to read the slides too much because I know that's not something that you're here for, but the planning process for the CIP basically starts out with the departments. It runs through information technology for reviews with consistency with their technology plan, also through the community development department for their consistency with the comprehensive plan. Then it comes back to finance where we evaluate resources, go ahead and make some revenue projections and expense projections over the 6-year planning window. This year, the first draft of the CIP program book went to the City Council on April 30th. We had a workshop on June 25th, and we're here today to adopt the CIP mainly in concept, which mainly means that the first year will then become part of the fiscal year 20 capital budget. Again, the considerations that we have with it is first and foremost, this comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan sets levels of service for different elements of the plan. And these improvements are there to uphold and enhance the ability of the city to maintain these levels of service. Secondly, funding availability, looking at the different operating funds, different revenue funds, different types of funds that are available for the different types of projects that are necessary to keep the city running, basically. And finally, impact on current operations. You have some of your projects will result in additional personnel and maintenance. Hopefully, they will come and change improvements so that it improves overall operations and increased efficiency. This is a brief summary of the table of contents of your book. What I want to highlight here is the revenue and expense projections by fund is new since the last book that you received back at the end of April. This is a sample project page of a real project we have. This one is the Rec Center project. And this is what the departments fill out initially to get the ball rolling, so to speak. And as you can see, there's various elements of this, just detailing the project specifically, detailing the funding sources specifically, and detailing the timing within the capital improvements window as to where that will occur. Getting into some numbers, this is a summary of the proposed fiscal year 20 capital improvement projects on the top section. Across all spans of the funding categories, both identified funding, contingent, and unfunded. And you also have the entire 6-year window there at the bottom that summarizes the different projects in those same categories. This is a summary of projects by funding source. These are all the various funds that are tapped into to maintain the capital infrastructure and enhance the capital infrastructure in order to meet those obligations that we have. Now we'll go into detail with these funding sources. This is a capital projects fund, basically comes out of the gas tax. The gas tax is a tax on fuel and diesel. Has both restricted and unrestricted versions of it. Basically, the projects that you see here, most of these projects are teamed up with grant funding and TPO projects, and the smaller amounts here indicating that these are just our part of the design, and that the construction and further design is later on in the game. Moving on to the Fire Impact Fee Fund, which is one of the impact fee funds that the city does allow, and we only have one project with that, and that's the training facility tower, and this is the amount that's funded by the impact fee fund. As you'll see later, there's still the total cost of the project requires additional funding. Transportation impact fee, similar to the fire impact fee, basically to offset the impacts of new construction of roads. Between the Community Development and Public Works Department, they take care of this. And again, these are our 5 projects that have dollars in fiscal year 20. The Recreation Impact Fee Fund to further our parks facilities. We have one project there, the Rec Center remodeling and expansion. And again, this is the part that's funded out of the impact fee fund and able to enhance our opportunities to get an ECHO grant to match that. Moving on to the proprietary funds, basically our water and sewer fund. This is our operating fund. You'll notice the amounts are a lot greater in detail than most of our elements. It is a expensive business. But from that standpoint, these are nothing different than any city or utility company's capital improvements. The Water and Sewer Renewal and Replacement Fund, basically it's funded with a transfer from the operational fund, the Water and Sewer Operational Fund, and it is paying for additional enhancements and or renewal and replacement of our facilities, again, to maintain the levels of service that the customer is expected to and then the ratepayers are charged. The second page of those projects, and again, these projects have a CIP page that takes you directly, references you directly to the project and the more specific information that you can get on the projects. Finally, with water and sewer, you have the impact fee fund, and this is where they use their connection or capacity fees that they receive to fund various elements of the growth of the system and the upsizing of the system. The drainage fund, funded from the drainage fee, very important fund, obviously, for where we live. And as we've seen in the past workshop presentations, they do a great job out there, but it is expensive as well. And therefore, we only have 2 projects that are funded in fiscal year 20. The next slide will show you a couple that have not made it yet to the funded portion. They are unfunded as of this particular time.
One of those we funded earlier in consent with the CBDG.
Yes. Yes.
House Street.
Very well could be. Mm-hmm. The golf course fund, we heard a little bit about the golf course today. They do have some capital improvements that are necessary to maintain their facilities as well. And they're a little bit less costlier than the others, but still need it to maintain their competitiveness. We have internal service funds. This is the lease and replacement fund. This is basically the fund that is almost like a sinking fund for all of the equipment and vehicles that the city departments have. Once a vehicle or a piece of equipment is bought, the department then pays into this fund for its replacement, so that at the time the asset reaches its useful life, the money's already there to replace it. You don't have to come up with any more additional funding. And again, some replacement fund continuation of those slides. The building maintenance fund, kind of the common buildings that we all share a piece of. And Lynn Stevens heads this up out in her department. And we have 2 projects there, the standby generator project and the public works fence replacement out of the facility of Virginia Avenue.
It's one generator Jake doesn't have to get out and push for.
What we have next are contingent proposed projects. These are projects, again, that have a part of them that are funded through grants that are proposed and will be sought after, but have yet to be committed, except, I should say that about the ECHO. We're looking at the TPO ones that they have already gone through their approval process there. Just a little slide that wanted to make sure everybody's awake and realize that we're still here. And then the big fund that affects the general fund. This is a fund that relies on funding from other sources, mainly the general fund. The funded project right now is the ADA transition plan. This is the second phase of a 2-phase project, which will enhance the city's ability to provide for ADA transition facilities. Now the fun part, these are the ones that are contingent on FEMA reimbursement and year-end budget reconciliation. Some of these items were on the wish list to be funded, and we're going to try to get them through there. But again, it's contingent on receiving additional funds and hopefully having a more positive year-end budget reconciliation. A continuation of that list here. And that'll do it for the PowerPoint. I'm here to help as much as I can to answer any questions. If not, we have the slew of department heads here to help me out.
Kevin, can we go back 2 slides, please?
Certainly.
Just want to say for the record, 33 slides, only 9 minutes.
Nice.
Not that we keep track of these things.
That's okay. Well, I was last for a reason. I didn't get my agenda item in time, so
Yeah.
I'm going to work on that. But I do want to recognize our intern, Matt Meyer, who helped us out so much with this, and what a great help he has been to our finance department, I have to say.
Excellent.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt.
Academy of Finance intern. So, Mayor and Council, I brought us back to the General Capital Fund 317. We talked a lot about this and Kevin, go back one more slide, please. I go back to this slide with the ADA transition plan. If you recall, during the general fund, there were a selection of green items, yellow items, and red items. Green items are things that staff wished to be funded this year. The yellow would be contingent, and the red we would push at least a year. Subsequent to the max millage, the current way we have the budget written, those 317 items could no longer be funded at the max millage rate. The way the general fund is currently written, we have a lot of wiggling around to do yet. And right now, the general fund budget does include all those items that you are not yet ready to say yes or no to. So as we start to really, as the mayor says, sharpen our pencil and look at those items, things may or may not jump back on the 317 funded list. Up to you how they go. But right now, if we had to snap the chalk line and execute a budget and send our information in, this is probably, absent your guidance, would be how it would go. And everything on the following pages would be contingent. One of the things that we added in here, that after having some discussions with finance, talking to Lori Bachman and Kevin and Lupe and Dr. Niels, that this year, since we're not putting any money or much money into the CIP from the general fund, that a lot of this can be contingent. And as Councilman Bob Ford used to mention about the budget reconciliation at the roll forward, after finance kind of reconciles the books end of November, December, we might find contingent money in the fund balance that you may or may not want to use for those items that are yellow. But that's how this stuff would be funded. If not, it would be like last year where the CIP pretty much, if it wasn't funded by some other way, we didn't fund it. And we'll hold it contingent on FEMA. Those are discussions we'll have, as well as what gets funded first. We'll have those discussions every time dollars free up in the fund balance, and we'll track that through the year and see what you say. And bottom line, you can say no every time if you want to keep the fund balance at a higher rate than 30%. But if you're interested, which you've kind of indicated via this FEMA reimbursement method, that contingent funding is something you consider. So that's how that 317 fund kind of flushed out after we did the max millage special meeting last week.
Hey, all right, why don't we start with Drew this time? Well, I started with everybody else first but you, so it's your turn, last item.
Well, this, going through the capital book and going through here, it really is a moving target, if you will, because you get 1 year set and then you have 5 years down the road and it constantly changes. So I certainly appreciate the efforts that were put into this and the work. and the countless hours of reading it. Like I said, it's going to continue to move and change as we evolve and prices of things change and priorities pop up. So just, keep doing what you're doing and keep us informed, and
Thank you,
we'll get
Councilman.
through it.
We will do it.
Chase?
Jake, just real quick, and I know we've already
sir.
we've already talked about all this this many times, the ADA compliance. Can you just give a review what that entails and why it's so critical?
Sure. So the ADA transition plan is a two-phase plan that Kimley Horn is working with us on, and that provides a master plan of what the city can do now, should do in the future, and every time we do something, what we have to look at to get done. In other words, don't skip this. Look at sidewalks, widening sidewalks, ADA compliance changes, and what that does for us, that transition plan, is a plan that we have to have and have to utilize and have to show we utilize it in order to get federal grants. We have to have an ADA failure to have an ADA transition plan could negate our opportunity for grants. So we made a decision two years ago, I guess, or last year, to fund part 1 and then fund part 2 this year in order to have it complete. It doesn't necessarily obligate us to do anything immediately. However, it's in our best interest to be ADA compliant whenever we can. Our city currently, every time we do something, we look at ADA compliance and make sure we are. We just don't have a plan that says how we're going to do that. So we're kind of doing it ad hoc right now. We're doing it right, believe me, but
Can you
we're
highlight
doing
that point
it ad
again?
hoc.
You said we miss out on grants without.
Yes, if we don't have this written plan and a road ahead for how we're going to address ADA issues when they come up, then we will not get grant money for certain federal and probably state grants. So not that we used grant for the annex, but we ensured the annex when we redid it was fully ADA compliant. The rec will be fully ADA compliant. I don't think ECHO didn't determine, I'm sure they make it, but they didn't say we needed an ADA transition plan for an ECHO grant, but a federal grant like that would probably make it mandatory. Tim, what's our grant, our lap projects? All our lap projects have to have the ADA transition plan. And that's the main reason we jumped into it, because our lap projects give us a lot of federal funding.
Oh, yeah.
They're a pain in the neck, but this is part of the pain. So the payback will, the return on investment will be well worth our while.
Thanks, Jake.
Yep.
Marilyn?
As long as we understand this is fluid, because there are some things here that I might want to push out a year or two from where they show up here, so that we could do some other things before then.
Absolutely no problem. No, we set priorities, right?
And I really like what slide is it? I'm back. I'm on slide 6. I thought you did a really nice job on the presentation. And 6 really summarizes everything when it says total request or proposed fiscal year 20 and then the 5-year projects.
And Scott?
Going back to look at 6.
Yeah.
You did that
It
too.
says what's
for us.
identified, what's
The
contingent,
1
and
year
what's
and the 6 year.
requested.
Right.
1 year summary and 6 year
I
summary.
thought it's very nice.
I agree with Marilyn. I mean, it has to be fluid. It's the only. This is definitely a fluid and a flexible document that lives.
It's a budget.
Right. Yeah.
That's the starting point. We've think about, and you all have been here much longer than I have, but think about any of our past year, we just paid for a $414,000 air conditioning unit that was not budgeted.
Right.
Was not budgeted, and we put it in the budget. Absolutely. This
Yeah,
is,
and
this
then I
is
was-
something to show our.
Right.
This is why we're putting the millage where it is.
And you know, and I think what Marilyn was talking about, and when I meant fluid, I meant in the broader sense of stringing multiple years together to get big projects somehow funded. If you look through this, the amount of infrastructure needs that are unfunded, it really is eye-opening. And when you look at the projects, you read the project and you realize it needs to be done. It's got to get done. But I don't know where some of these are going to get done, where the funding, because the whole funding stream that we've been used to for the last 5, 10, and 15 years is changing dramatically. You know, federal dollars being available, state dollars being available. A lot of these projects that I think we had hoped to see over the next couple of years, some of these may be now 10, 12, 15 years down the road. Who knows?
And we talked about that during the
Right.
half-cent sales tax, that this is gonna, what's gonna happen if we don't get it? It's gonna make a 2 or 3 year project, a 7 to 10 year project.
Oh yeah,
or
what you're
maybe
gonna
not a
see
project.
is instead of a 200-page CIP book in a few years is 250, 280, 300 pages, because those funding streams aren't there, and these, sadly, a lot of these projects that are critical to our city and really need to be done are going to fall in priority because those funding streams aren't going to be there, and that's where that flexibility I was talking about is, those things that are looking maybe to next year and the year after. Some of those are going to get kicked when the urgency projects pop up, and they take over. It's just how it's going to be. But I do appreciate all your work, and I appreciate all the staff's work, and it's definitely a year by year and keep it moving type of thing. But
All those funding sources differentiate how fast or slow. I mean, water projects. When it comes to water, we charge a fee every month to our water users, so we have money coming in for those, and we review those fees every 5 years to make sure they're appropriate. Road, we have a gas tax that does not take care of the maintenance needs, much less other projects, and will not. That gas tax has not grown and won't. So we can't even take care of current maintenance with that. So does council have to set priorities? Yes, absolutely. Does council have to set priorities within the means of what we have? Yep, absolutely. We have tough decisions
well, and
to make.
this is a great document from time to time when I talk to residents and they say, well, this needs to be done, and I can say, well,
We know.
we know. I can show you where it's been in the CIP for years, and it's going to stay in the CIP for years until some of these things we figure out how to get the funding source to them. It's just going to take time, a little bit at a time. But
Fortunately, we have a very smart and creative finance team, hint, hint.
they don't have a money machine back there where they can print, do they?
We do. Her name's Amanda Lasecki. She was here with her daughter earlier, but she left. She's the head of OPM, Other People's Money.
Right, beautiful.
Anyone here care to speak to this item this evening? There being none, back to us. Council, final comments or questions? There being none, call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Bastian.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tremont.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Comments, city attorney comments. Matt?
None tonight.
Great report, thank you.
Good job, Matt.
City manager comments.
Yes, Mayor. Yearly ICMA, my City Managers Association, International City Managers Association, asked for cities to host the City and County Management Senior Fellowship Program. We did so last year, if you recall, with Johnny Beavers from Polk, thank you. It's been so long. This year we have Mike Whitecotton from the base in Kansas, Fort Leavenworth, the base portion, not the prison portion. The joke was when he showed up, he's not here on a work release program, but I'd like to invite Mike up to introduce himself and give you a 30-second spiel on where he's from and what he's seen so far.
Mayor, council members, my name is Mike Whitecotton. I am from, as Jake said, Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, as part of the Garrison team. The garrisons on installations, as you may know, provide equivalent city services to our soldiers and family members that live on post. So I'm part of a cohort of 15 people that are assigned to cities, as Jake mentioned, through a partnership by the Department of the Army and the International City-County Managers Association. So I'm very fortunate to be here at Port Orange. This is a very unique program where we're able to meet with city managers and the department heads that provide the equivalent services that we provide on military installations. The experience has been fantastic so far. I'm very impressed with the services that you provide through the city manager and through these department heads in the city of Port Orange. It's very much of an eye-opener to see what you provide. I've met so far with a number of the management team and the department heads, and will continue to do so throughout the week. At the conclusion of my time here, then I'll prepare a trip report that's briefed out to the Secretary of the Army staff on what we've learned from this experience. So far, I will tell you there's many more similarities than differences. The challenges that you face, I heard about the golf course tonight. We have one too, and have very similar challenges with our golf course. So I very much appreciate the experience, the hospitality that I've been shown, and the interaction and dialogue with all the people here on this great team that you have. Very, very impressed with the professionalism and the people that you have that run the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. What
Mayor,
else you got?
Mayor, additionally, on August 20th, staff looked at the agenda about 8 different ways, and so the Riverwalk first reading and a bunch of regular agenda amendments occur in 2 different spots in the agenda, and it's hard to kind of carve it out in the regular meeting. So with your permission, we would like to meet on the 20th at 5 o'clock and have a special meeting that's just the Riverwalk. We can open up all the items with the CRA, by the way, right, the Town Center CRA, open up all the items for discussion, get the CRA to approve or disapprove of the changes, recommend to council, then have a quick meeting with the council to go forth there and take care of all that in one fell swoop at 5 o'clock. We feel we can get it done for an hour and a half, in an hour and a half, and then rock and roll into the regular agenda.
What date is this, Jake?
It's the 20th. It's our next meeting at 5 o'clock instead of 6:30.
Council, any problem with that?
I'm checking that now. No, I'm good.
Okay.
I can't be here. I'll be in Las Vegas.
Well, you can't be here at 6:30
You can't
either,
be
so-
here at
I'm not going to be here for either. Not going to be here for
Just
either.
want to make sure that we reach out to our 2 CRA board members that also sit with us.
I have a master clerk that will take care of that. Municipal master
She will
clerk.
get it done.
No doubt.
That's all I have, sir.
Council committee reports, River to Sea TPO.
What you got, Scott?
I've got nothing to offer. No meeting so far this month. They've got another one coming up here soon.
General Employees Pension Plan.
Finally had a positive yield, thankfully. It's been kind of a rough market year, as we know, but a positive yield of 4.2 for the month and bringing us back to about 3.4-ish for the year so far.
That was before yesterday.
Yeah. For yesterday and
For the
before
last
today.
week.
Yeah,
yeah,
right, today.
Apparently yesterday and today has been quite the roller
The
coaster.
boomerang.
We lost a board member, Lynn Hadley, unable to continue staying on the board, so that position will be replaced here pretty soon.
Okay.
That's all we got.
We have, at the next meeting, we have on the agenda, First Step Shelter. Report on the next meeting. I would love to talk about it tonight, but I'm not going to because it wasn't on the agenda, but boy, I'm sure that we have an awful lot to say about all the things that are going on with that. So be prepared. I can't wait for your report in 2 weeks, Chase.
I hope I have a better
Will
one
be a
than I would have
PowerPoint?
had tonight.
Yeah. With that, I've got one question. Nancy, how'd we do?
Did pretty darn good. Ran a little bit over.
I couldn't agree more. With that, let's end it. Have a good night, everybody.